how did you pick the protagonists in your book, the meliorists, these billionaires? Were they from among people you personally know, or did you try to pick people that you thought were the sort of generous philanthropists with a social justice heart?
Well, I did research on them. I read biographies and their statements and articles, features on them. I know about half of them. I've interacted with them, like Ted Turner, Phil Donahue, and others, Peter Lewis, head of Progressive Insurance. The other point is that it wasn't difficult to pick Warren Buffett as the convener. I mean, he's the richest, he's got an independent mind, he wants higher taxes on the very rich because he considers them undertaxed compared to the tax rate their secretaries pay. He's favored and fought for the retention of the estate tax. He's a major philanthropist in his own right. And he's very respected, and he gets his calls returned. So each one of them, in their own life, gave me a reason to, or reasons to select them and put them in fictional roles that, in a way, reflected some of the things they've done in real life and extended it into a massive social justice movement, top down, bottom up.
Now, some of your characters are real, but others are not real, but they seem to be based on real people like Brover Dortwist and Pawn Vanity Bush Bimbaugh. Why did you choose to make some real and some parodies of themselves?
Well, the protagonists, the CEOs, are all fictional names, and they don't indicate who I think they really are in real life because they're totally fictional names. But I thought that giving a twist on the name perks up the reader, and they say, "Oh, that must be Sean Hannity," or "That must be Rush Limbaugh." And it's important in a large book to have these little perky things that get people laughing a bit and smiling.
Was it always a fantasy of yours to to write a work of fiction, in quotes?
No, not at all. I was totally nonfiction from day one.
Let's talk about the strategies that you laid out in your book. How much of the strategies that the billionaires carry out are based on real strategies that you've either been part of or wished you could be part of?
Almost all of them. In other words, over the years, when you win victories, it's very nice. You federally regulate the auto industry, get the clean air bill through, and clean water, work on OSHA, occupational disease. But then when the corporate counterattack came and the Democrats started getting worse and dialing for the same commercial dollars as the Republicans, you start losing more. And so you want to learn from your losses. And when you learn from your losses, you say, you know, what if we had more mass media to get the message across at the right time? What if we had more organizers? And so the strategies that are in this book, some of them are pretty bread and butter. But some of them haven't been tried, not because they wouldn't be effective, because there's not enough money to put them in place. And that's the point. One of the points of the book is the progressive movement is stalled because they have, I think, a great agenda, and they document corporate and government abuses, and they have good proposals, and they're very good on their critiques. But their proposals have no fuel because their proposals require a lot of people, a lot of transportation, a lot of media. And today, in real life, there isn't even one full-time lobbyist for single-payer health insurance. The California Nurses Association do some, but there are over 2,000 full-time lobbyists by the drug industry and the hospital chains and the companies like Aetna and Cigna. That's a huge mismatch on Capitol Hill. And we have to recognize that money, resources are critical, even if your strategy and your agenda is supported by a majority of the American people, because the other side, the corporate Goliaths, they put endless money in.
What about real-life characters like George Soros and Bill Gates and those billionaire philanthropists who do talk a good talk, who will fund projects, and some of it does trickle down into progressive projects? Do you think that they are off base?
No, this book is not about philanthropy or charity. It's about justice, which means a power collision in the middle of the year. That's when it really starts getting very ferocious between the good guy billionaires and the entrenched corporate CEOs. George Soros has put several $billion into establishing civic institutions in Eastern Europe and here in the United States through his Open Society Institute, which is one reason why I selected him as part of this group. But we need to take it to an utterly new level. The modern global corporation is incredibly organized. It's dynamic, it's creative, it's relentless, regardless of whether it does bad or good. When you're up against something like that, you can't have a 19th century citizen group that at most can picket a little bit or march here and there on a weekend, and then the marchers have to go back to work and try to make ends meet during weekdays. That's why this book is designed to raise the imagination of the readers to see what the real possibilities are in this country. And everything is done in this book, and it is really dramatic and comprehensive and thorough on domestic issues. Very intricate organizations in congressional districts, 400 recruiters to get the best natural leaders from communities around the country, and the thinkers and doers. $15 billion. That's less than a third of Warren Buffett's financial wealth. And why don't we think about, what if 7 billionaires get together and they say, enough is enough, we're in our 70s and 80s and 90s, we're going to put $1 billion to organize in every congressional district to get single payer, when a third of the Congress privately is already for single payer health insurance, full Medicare for all. Now, is that so outlandish? And when you have that amazing number of billionaires in the country, say 99% could care less about the people. If you have just 1%, look what you can do.
You talk about this top-down, bottom-up approach. What about a scenario where all of the progressives and projects that they already have, that we already see around us today, simply got the funding from these billionaires? Why was it important for you to characterize the billionaires as empowered actors?
That's a good question, because they discussed that. Should they join openly with existing citizen groups? And they decided no, for a couple reasons. One is that they didn't want to be stereotyped. So they joined a group that has gotten in trouble 3 years ago or something, and then they would be stereotyped or tainted. But the more important reason is that they wanted complete freedom to organize the base structure without getting entwined in the bureaucracies of the existing citizen groups and egos and petty fighting and personality, because they were moving fast. They decided this would be the last year for them on Earth, just, you know, hypothetically, in order to get it done fast, because the strategy's strength comes from its surprise, being steps ahead of the corporate Goliaths, who were sort of slowly building the counterattack with their Darth Vader character, Lancelot Lobo.
When you said petty squabbling, are you referring to some of what you said during your talk regarding the Green Party and many progressive movements?
Well, you know, we've all experienced this. Some people have a sense of urgency and they keep their eye on the corporate power and the corporate state and whatever. And others, you know, they get very personal and they get sensitive and blistered by moonbeams, and that to them is their priority that they feel they have to meet before they go on to fighting the big guys. So it's weakened a lot of groups.